Okay, you ready, Josh?
Yep.
Ready, Seth? All right, let me know. You call it, Josh. We're ready.
1, 2, 3. 20.
Might have been it, honestly. But we'll see. It might have been it, but we'll see.
Okay.
Never gets old. And that shot in particular, I don't know if I'm going to be able to top it in my lifetime. It's definitely going to take a lot in order for me to top a shot like that one. But you guys who have watched the video were very curious on how I was actually able to achieve that shot. And so in this video, I'm actually going to pull back the curtain, not just on how I actually captured the shot, but also my process, the tools and everything that I used and how I graded this project and approached this project as well from the editing perspective. I'm also going to show you how fake my Dolly Zoom is, if it is even fake. My name's Dustin, your video tour guide, and remember to keep your arms and legs inside your chairs at all times. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The first thing I think we need to tackle is the setup for capturing the Dolly Zoom. And I have it right here. Now there is one piece of this setup that is actually not what I was using, and that is the gimbal. This is the RS4 Pro. In the video, I was using the RS2 Pro. That gimbal was starting to get quite old, and I was really wanting a upgrade because I have the DJI Focus Pro and I can't use the LiDAR with my RS2 Pro. So I finally, in the meantime of this project, I have the RS4 Pro. But anyways, the setup was the exact same. The lens that was used for the project, it's gonna be hard to show, but it was the 12 to 35 f2.8. That is the lens that I was using for the Dolly Zoom. So it zoomed from 12 to 35 or a 24 to 70 equivalent. And I tested it on a few different lenses. In hindsight, I'm like, man, maybe I should have done it on the 10 to 25 instead. But I think the 24 to 70 was perfect because I noticed you can even kind of see it in the Dolly Zoom. The very beginning of the Dolly Zoom, it kind of does that like wide angle kind of like warpiness, if that makes sense. Like, oh, the ramp is like the same perspective, I guess, but then the background is just scaling behind it. And so I think if I would have done the 10 to 25, it would have looked a little more odd for longer in the beginning. So yeah, the big reason that I was actually using the Focus Pro on the side here was because the RS2, I could not get the scroll wheel or whatever this is, the focus wheel, to change to a zoom rocker, if that makes sense. So normally when it's set to focus, you will move this as if you're using like a focus puller, right? It's not like a zoom rocker, if that makes sense. But if I change this to zoom, I gotta change it to zoom on here as well. So now when I change it to zoom, notice that instead of like scrolling through this, I just pull it and then it goes through the zoom. It's actually set to the same speed from when I was doing the Dolly Zoom. So it's treated more as like a zoom rocker. There we go, like this. So I just have to pull it in order to get the zoom to work. The reason it was set to that is because we talk about it earlier in the film, is that I'm trying to match my speed with the correct speed of the truck in order to make the Dolly Zoom work, essentially. In order for the ramp that's in the shot that I'm like dolly zooming, I want that to stay the same scale in my frame and everything else to basically do the effect. And this is why it was much easier to have it like this as a zoom rocker and not as like a focus pull. Now, if I would have had the RS4, I probably still would have gone with this setup, because this honestly just gave me more stability when I was sitting in the back of the truck. But also when I like got my camera in position, I would actually hold the trigger right here. So it'd be kind of hard to like also hold the trigger and like pull this, maybe not too hard, but mostly just for the stability while I was in the truck, because I'm like kind of bouncing, right? And I'm trying to keep the ramp in the center of the frame. I just turned on my grid on my camera and I just basically put the ramp directly in the middle and tried to keep it directly in the middle best I could. So anyways, this was the setup. This was the lens used, and of course was on the GH7. Let me just turn this off, and then we will dive into the actual edit of the film. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to Lumix, if you are interested in learning more about how your Lumix works and how it functions and how you can confidently use it on a shoot at this scale, I have an online course. I already have over 175 students, and it's still growing every day. And if you are one of my students, thank you. I seriously appreciate it so much. And since my last video where I talked about it, I have launched the photography section of the course as well. There's over another hour of content teaching you all of the photography settings on Lumix, and there is more to come. I don't have a section quite yet on the GH7, but just know that if you buy the course, most of the settings, probably like 90% of the settings that are covered in the course, are basically identical on the GH7. It's just a one-time payment that gains you lifetime access to a growing library of videos. That's right, everybody who purchased in January got access to the photography section for free. I have tons of plans to keep growing the content, and something that is brand new as well is that brands that are partnered with me and the course, you will get exclusive discounts if you become a member inside the course. Right now, MusicBed is one of them, and also Falcom. You will get an exclusive discount on some Falcom stuff when you order through the link that's in the course platform. So I have a link below if you're interested in learning more about how to master your Lumix camera. So let's take a look at the edit for this project. So right here is the timeline in all of its glory. And I'm probably gonna get some judgments as well. It's maybe not the most organized. I don't even really write down like what tracks are which. I just know because I'm the one who's editing it. Nobody's gonna be opening this project or anything like that. So just know my method for like editing any kind of project is very sporadic. Essentially how I started this project, I didn't really know what kind of video I was gonna make. A part of the, I guess, agreement from Lumix, because that video was sponsored by Lumix, this one is not, was for me to create a YouTube video to post on my YouTube channel. And there was a couple other shorts, assets, and some photos that we delivered as well. That was a part of the agreement. But as far as my video, I had really no idea what I was going to be making. All I knew was I was trying to capture some kind of hero shot for this project. And that's what John, who was kind of more taking the head of this project, that's what he wanted for his videos that will hopefully be coming soon as well for you guys to watch on the Lumix USA channel. When I'm approaching any kind of project like this though, my kind of like process is to find the music first. And so that's kind of what I did. I did kind of look at the project, some of the footage and everything, and I kind of put it on my timeline just to see kind of the feelings I was getting from it. And my default for any kind of project, it's kind of just my thing, is I really like to go very over the top cinematic. So if some people in the comments, I saw some that said that, oh, it's a little over the top and stuff, and I'm just like, that's just what I like to do. So you like it or you don't. That's where it's my video, so I get to choose how I get to make it. So, so after I got the music, I kind of laid it out on the timeline on how I wanted the music to flow, because I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it looks like 6 different tracks in this edit. And by the way, they're actually all from MusicBed, and hasn't been quite announced on my socials yet, but I am now a brand partner with MusicBed, and so if you guys want a free trial of MusicBed, there's a link down in the description. All this music though came from MusicBed. I laid it out on the timeline, and this is where I actually wrote my script. Let me actually pull up my script as well, because I'm sure you guys are kind of curious to see that as well. So here's my script right here actually. Voiceover, drone shots of landscapes, travel footage. There's a place where creativity meets technology, where innovation becomes a tool for limitless expression. So anyways, yeah, this is how I wanted the film to flow. I spent some time writing this because one of the big things that Lumix wanted in that video was for me to highlight some of my favorite things on the GH7. So I chose kind of the things that I felt not only highlighted it, but were some of the strong points, I guess, where it came in handy on this particular project. I didn't want to just throw out a bunch of random, specs or things, right? But I wanted to also for them to make sense in the film. So there you have it. You can see some of the process. And I actually do that a lot on not just like my actual videos, but also my YouTube videos where I actually write scripts and everything on what I'm going to say. The rough cut that I originally sent, it wasn't really supposed to be seen, but the rough cut of this film didn't really change too much from the actual edit of the film. There were some things that I added as I watched through, like this kind of teaser of the dolly zoom, because I felt like if I didn't tease that in the beginning, then people might feel like that this is just a video, like an advertisement for the GH7, which it is an advertisement for the GH7. But yeah, it's just kind of trying to appeal more to a broader audience besides just people that are interested in Lumix or the GH7. So I added that in, and some of the feedback I got was to add in some of the attempts. And believe it or not, that attempt that I got, that you see in the film, was the first attempt with the motorist, Seth, actually going up and down, which I don't know if I should give myself credit, or I don't know. I just thought it was pretty wild that when I was doing all the tests and stuff, when we actually ran it through, that it was the first one I got. We actually changed after I did one more going that same direction where I'm in the back of the truck. We actually changed to going forward as well. And I did capture a dolly zoom going that way as well, which I'll play on the screen. The reason why we flipped is because of the dust and the dirt that was coming up. And maybe some people will disagree or agree, but for me, I just felt like that dolly zoom going forward, it didn't really look as cool to me. But maybe you'll disagree and you'll think that it looked cooler. Since I'm talking about the dolly zoom, let me just go ahead and pull up and show you what I guess is faked, you could say, which, believe it or not, it's actually probably 99% real. I did add some stabilization in post. So when we play this back here, it looks very stable. And it's like, you might be questioning, like, how did you get it so stable when you were like flopping around in the back of the truck? I think it's just because of the scale of what I was capturing. The moving around didn't really show that much, and I was keeping it pretty stable. But yeah, if I go ahead and just turn off stabilization right here, you'll notice there's almost no crop at all. And so I'll play this without the stabilization, and you can see it is extremely close. You almost don't even notice a difference. The only thing that the stabilization got rid of was this, let me go full screen here. The only thing that the stabilization really did is it got rid of this little bit of shake right here in the very beginning, and then the rest of it is 100% real. Now, if we pull up the raw clip of this, because of the aspect ratio that I was filming in, I did move the framing of this so it stayed center just because of the aspect ratio we filmed in. But even on the raw, you can see that I pretty much kept it very centered. I tilt up slightly as I'm going, which I was totally okay with. You probably saw in some of the test shots that I did as well that I was kind of panning a little bit, like my gimbal just kept kind of drifting slightly. I don't know if it's just because of how shaky it was in the back of the truck, but yeah, this shot is essentially extremely real. And the reason why I really wish it would have been long enough to last that entire, portion of the music in the edit. But unfortunately, you can see on this raw clip that it ends about right there. And so instead I just cut to a drone shot. That's why it doesn't hold through the entire thing and it cuts through the drone shot. And by the way, I just got to say shout out to everybody a part of the team, Dylan, John, Josh, because yeah, there was no way that this would have been possible without them. Like Josh driving the truck, John bringing the idea even to me, like challenging the idea for me to come up with something, basically I've never done before that's very difficult, very technically difficult. And then, yeah, Dylan getting all the BTS and everything. And it's crazy for me to look back at just this section of video and think that I almost didn't capture any of that. We honestly did a pretty bad job, or I should say I did, a bad job of capturing the process of getting this dolly zoom. And some of that is just, I didn't really know what my YouTube video was going to be, but these portions right here where you hear me talking, that's just the audio coming from my camera right there. I didn't even have audio like recording on me. Same with Josh. Like I was ready to go and just try and get this shot out because, we were pressed at time, but he actually was like taking some time to get a perspective of him in the truck. And then same goes for Dylan as well, is that he was capturing this drone stuff. And same with me. The reason why the Insta360 camera is not, closer to me and getting my face, right, is because we were going to be flipping around and going the other way. And I just happened to hit record on both of them just in case though. And so the fact that we have as much as we do of this whole thing is pretty lucky that we were able to capture this process. Now let me show you one of the POV clips of me capturing this dolly zoom, so you can also see that the audio is even captured live and everything.
Okay, you ready, Josh? Ready, Seth? All right, let me know.
You can see the speed of my dial right there. The speed of the motor was at 2. But yeah, watch my viewfinder as I capture this shot. It's gonna be a little hard just because it's, shaking.
Might have been it, honestly, but we'll see. It might have been it, but we'll see. We'll do a couple takes, obviously, but yeah, just stay here.
You can get a little.
We might go. I think we're gonna go forward.
Oh, this is kind of fun. I don't know how much you're gonna see of this, but you can see us playing it back. So what you can see in the film is actually exactly how it played out. Yeah, it's gonna cut right here because I was using my Ray-Ban Metas, but yeah, we did go forward and we did try and capture one going the other way, and we were successful at getting one the other way, but yeah, to me, it just didn't look as cool. So anyways, let me dive a little bit deeper into the edit, because I know one big thing that people were curious of and people commented on, which I'm also pretty proud of, is the color grade. That the color grade was extremely spot on. Now, we didn't film this project in ProRes RAW. We did record it in ProRes, which I'm very glad that we did, because I had a lot of trouble color grading this project, and maybe it's just because we had 4 different people shooting in their preferred ways, right? Their preferred methods of exposing, just different styles. We were all using different equipment, different NDs, different mist filters. Like, it was kind of a mess and learning experience in hindsight. But let me just pull back all of the color grade and you can see how I approached this. Now, I just got to say, before I show you the grade, I'm probably going to get comments too on how I did things incorrectly. My kind of learning when it comes to color grading, one, I'm not a professional colorist at all, but I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to, be a better colorist. So glad that I switched to DaVinci Resolve for that. To me, my opinion when it comes to color is it doesn't really matter how you do it or what method you do it, as long as it looks good. So what you probably will see in this is maybe not going to be best practices or it's going to be the correct way or anything. It's just how I did it, right? The first thing though is we weren't able to have budget to put the GH7 on a drone. And so I first, on all of the drone shots, you can see how much I did here. On all of the drone shots, I actually changed the color space to Vlog. So then I could be a bit more consistent in what color space I was grading in. But then I applied just a simple, I think this is just a Rec 709 LUT. I don't remember what I used, but I don't think I did anything, fancy here when it came to the LUT. And looks like here, I also don't mark really what my stuff is because I pretty much know what it is. So on this one, this is just some exposure. Yeah, it's just some like exposure adjustments. I'm bringing down some of the, the lift, gamma, and the gain. Looks like I'm just boosting the gain and bringing the lift down a little bit. And then here, it looks like I'm just kind of bringing the highlights down a little bit because they're coming in a bit more harshly, and I didn't really like that. And just using curves for that. And then this is where I corrected a lot of the color because I didn't really love, and you'll see this throughout the project, and I'm going to show you, is that I didn't really love the way that these like shadows were coming in, and the overall just color, it didn't really match what I saw out there with my own eyes. And so here I corrected the color to be just more consistent of how I felt like the colors were out there. And then this is just a little bit of texture that I added because it was a little soft and I didn't want to sharpen it, so to say, but I just added a little bit of texture just to make it pop a little bit. And let me go to another clip here. Instead of a drone shot, like here, this is a good example, a good sequence of my grade. Let me just go through these and turn it off. So that's pretty much how I approached all the drone shots. And I'll show maybe one more example as well. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how I approached the grade right here. And first we applied just our conversion LUT, and you can see how just kind of ugly it was, even just from that one conversion LUT. And so this one right here, this is the same thing, just some lift and gain adjustments. Here is where I did kind of a similar thing as well. I just kind of messed with the curves here to kind of make the highlights and the shadows maybe pop a little bit more. Then I added the texture right here. I maybe should have done that last now that I think about it, but oh well. Here, so this is you'll notice it's pretty subtle, but you'll notice that the dirt out here, it really looked yellow in camera, which to my eyes when I was there, it was much more like gray and like almost blackish, like a black gray. And so I really tried to make it match more of what my eyes see. So I pulled out a lot of yellow, and I'll show maybe some more extreme examples as well. This is a interesting kind of trick that I learned, but this is how I increase some saturation. So I changed the color space to HSV, and then I turned off the channel 1 and channel 2. And then when you increase your gain, you actually adjust the saturation. So you can see like it looks very just plain here, almost like it's still in log. And so I threw in a little bit of saturation without cranking saturation here. Just a little trick that I learned. Right here as well, it was still kind of a green. I think I'm trying to remember what exactly I did here. Oh yeah, I can see it right here. So the overall image just didn't really look quite right. Let me just go to the waveform here. Like the colors still seem a little bit off on what I want it to be. So I just changed some of the offset here and just adjusted so that on the waveform it kind of matched a little bit better, I guess. And then here I did a final little pull back in the color warper with yellow. There's just so much yellow that seemed like it just didn't really feel exactly what I saw to my eyes. So yeah, you can see quite a bit of that yellow get pulled out right there. And you want to be careful with all of these tools because yeah, like sometimes you can just really destroy the image if you go too extreme on these tools. This is another good example. I'm going to go through it quick, but just to show how extreme these drone shots were, how much I changed them. So this is just the color transform. Let me move these here. This node is just the color transform to V-Log. Turn it back on. This one is my, LUT that was applied. And again, I'm pretty sure it's just a Rec 709 conversion. It might be some other thing, but I'm pretty sure that's all it was. This was, let me turn these off. These aren't off. This one right here is my, looks like I changed some of the color temperature and tint in this particular shot. This was the curves adjustment to pull back some of the highlights. This, you can see right here, this one's an interesting one. I'm kind of messing with the shadows. And you can see just how green and like blue the shadows were. And I was just not loving that at all. And this is where I really get rid of that. So this is kind of an interesting trick you can do as well. You can go to the Luma versus saturation. So basically I just pulled out all the saturation in the luminance, the shadows, because, to my eye out there, this didn't look blue or like green or anything. So I just pulled out all of that saturation in the shadows area. So that's an interesting little trick. Looks like here I'm adjusting again some more luminance and saturation. Looks like I adjusted some colors in the color warper, and that's everything there. Here's the texture that I added. And then you can see it's still pretty yellow. So I used this is a new tool that I've started to use, the color slice tool. You can see I really messed with the yellow right here just to kind of pull it out here. And then there was a little bit more noise after doing all those adjustments. And so this is just a noise reduction layer. Let me show you one more clip that's maybe a bit more extreme on the yellow. Okay, so this one is a good example of just how yellow, for some reason, some of this footage was showing up. Again, I don't think it's necessarily the GH7. It could have just been the filters we were using. Maybe the white balance was off here. I don't really know. But yeah, when I apply the conversion LUT here, you can see just how yellow kind of everything comes in. It was sunset, kind of dusk time. But yeah, it's not very pleasing to me, and it doesn't kind of represent what I saw with my eyes. And so added in some texture here. And then right here, this is where I dialed back. I just used the offset to kind of get this to a bit better color that I felt like was a little bit better representation. And then I used the color slice tool as well to just really pull back the yellow that was up here in the sky. Now, the last secret ingredient, I guess you could say, because right now the color still isn't really that kind of creative grade. Now I've just gotten everything to a point that I'm happy with how it looks across the whole project. Like if the color feels very consistent from clip to clip. So the little secret component here is this adjustment layer on the very top, this adjustment clip. When I turn that layer back on, you can see that this is when my creative look is applied. Let me find another clip here that shows it better. This is kind of a good clip here. So when I apply this look here, you can see it. We get that more kind of creative grade that you see across the whole film. I applied this because I wanted it to have some kind of creative look to it. And since everything looks pretty consistent, I just applied it. And this LUT in particular that I applied across the whole project, it's actually a LUT from Lens Distortions. I don't know if you guys have seen or heard of Lens Distortions, but they've got a lot of really cool assets on the site. And I've actually owned these LUTs for a really long time. I don't use them all the time, but they felt right to use in this project. And so yeah, that's why I decided to use it. And they do a really good job at just giving a very creative look. And they're finishing LUTs too, so you don't apply it to the, vlog footage. I guess I could. This one in particular, yeah, I remember exactly which one I was using. I used this tonal sand one. And the reason why I chose that one in particular is because it felt like it matched the color palette of the location that we were at. Yeah, I went through a lot of these, and even this, I was debating on this super gold one as well. This one also kind of had a really nice look to it, but I felt like on other clips, like it looks good in this clip of me like talking about this, but I felt like across the rest of the project, it didn't really fit quite the same. And so that's why I went with this tonal sand one. And this is actually very accurate in my opinion to how it looked out at this location. So there you have it. There is my process on this project when it came to the grade, the creative grade. Again, I'm not a professional colorist, but I've been complimented on how good the color grade was on this project. And honestly, I'm happy with it. The methods and everything, maybe some are wrong. Maybe that I did it right. I don't know. I don't really care. It looks good to me and I'm happy with it. This is going to be a very long video, but the next tool that I want to introduce you guys to that you guys are probably curious of is what did I use for sound design? Because there is quite a bit of sound design in this project. You can see everything right here. That is all just sounds that I've used. Oh, and I want to point something out very quickly. Besides just the sounds in this project, something that might surprise you is that the sound design of the motorcycle, the motorbike, they were actually directly recorded into the GH7 using the XLR2. There was a few that I captured separately using the Comica VM40 that has 32-bit float internally that you can record from. But yeah, this was using, I think we were using just like a Rode microphone that we had handy, but it was plugged in to the GH7. And I can even click, there's some clips here like this one right here. You can see it's attached. And that's because it came directly from the XLR2. There's one right there. So the sound that came from this clip is directly recorded in the XLR2. Obviously these drone shots, they weren't recorded directly in, but they did come from other clips that I felt just kind of matched what was happening. I tried to make the sounds of the motorbike and everything match. I think, yeah, this clip right here, also directly from the XLR2, directly from that clip. I think even these ones in here, maybe. There you go. Yeah, that one directly from the clip, directly from the clip. Pretty much the section where I talk about the XLR2, high level quality using the XLR2, all of those clips in that section are basically 32-bit float clips recorded directly onto the clip. I did not modify those or add those separately. So that is kind of a cool behind the scenes little tip or whatever when it comes to 32-bit float. It works. It came in handy. It was very, very useful in this project. Anyways, but the sound design for this project, I used a tool called Krotos Studio. So if I come over here and I click this right here, this window pops up and this is Krotos. I was actually trying to become an affiliate with them before I was going to introduce this tool, but it's fine. I don't have to earn a commission, but it's a very, very amazing tool when it comes to sound design, and it is just fun. And I don't want to dive too deep into this, but basically I can choose, like, for example, simple flutter, and I can create sound effects. I'll unmute my sound for this part. And then once I create that sound effect, I can drag it onto my timeline. So yeah, you can mess with different kinds of sounds and you can create your own essentially. or you can change the pitch as well. So yeah, sound design is one of those things that I've wanted to get better at, but I hate doing it because when you do it from like a stock site or whatever, you have to download the clip, and then it goes into a folder, and then usually you have to unzip it, and then you drag it in, and then you use it, and you're like, does that sound good? No. Okay, well, do it all over again, type it in, search it up, find it. I just hate that process. And so I have really kind of held back, I guess, that I can do sound design, right? I've never really done it too much on many projects, but this project I was like, yeah, I'm going to pull out all the stops here. And this is a tool that I haven't used a ton, but I was like, this is the perfect tool where I can finally like actually use it and, you know, really kind of show off in a video how cool and how powerful it is. I'm probably going to do a whole video on this tool one day, but it is what I used. I'll have a link below that you can look into. Man, I'm looking at the time limit of how long this video is, and I know it's going to be a long one. So if you're still here, appreciate you sticking around. But I think the thing I'm going to end on is just talking about the GH7 itself, because you're probably curious what I really thought of the GH7. And honestly, I gotta say, I was completely wrong about the GH7. I made a video earlier on my honest thoughts on the GH7 as a full frame user. And I think a lot of the things I said in that, I want to backtrack on. And I'm not just saying that because like this was a paid sponsored project with Lumix, but it is actually genuinely true. It surprised me. And some of the things that I want to backtrack on are mostly when it came to like, I felt like I could still tell that I was shooting on a Micro Four Thirds. And honestly, all it came down to was just using the correct lenses, or actually good lenses, I should say, because that 12 to 35, I don't really love that lens now that I've seen what these lenses can do. Now, most of this project was shot on the 10 to 25, this lens, the 25 to 50, and the 100 to 400 millimeter lens. Oh, and the 9 millimeter lens. There's a few clips in there, but yeah, this 1.7 lens, I loved it so much that I actually bought it myself. Yeah, this is not, Lumix didn't send me this, or, you know, they didn't give it to me after doing the project. I liked this so much that I actually bought the lens myself, because after this project, I didn't want the GH7 just lying around with lenses that I don't really love and it not getting used, because, you know, it's an amazing camera. Everything that I talked about in the video is genuine. Like, Lumix didn't tell me what to say in that advertisement. It was genuinely the things that surprised me. The 4K 120, it looks amazing. It's one of the best 4K 120s I've ever seen. The stabilization, I kind of already knew about because it's the same, or at least close to the same as the G9 Mark II. So I already knew that that was good. The photography part of it surprised me completely. All the pictures, not all of them, but almost 90% of the pictures that you see in this project, in this video, I mean, it was shot by me. Those are pictures that I took. There's some of them that aren't. There's like not very many though. Mostly it's just the pictures that you see of me were shot by somebody else. So that genuinely surprised me on how capable it was. All the nighttime shots that you see of the stars, all the live view composite things that I shot. I know you have live view composite on S5 II and the S5 IIX, but for a low light scenario, yeah, that was shot on the GH7. And it, yeah, genuinely surprised me. Haven't really had experience with ProRes RAW. I have had experience with ARRILOG C3, and I'm not gonna pull back when it comes to that, because for me, ARRILOG C3 still is mostly only useful if you want to do the ARRI workflow and, you know, do the log to log color grading and use the ARRILOG C3 LUTs, or when you're using it next to an ARRI camera directly. Those are kind of the only scenarios where I see that it makes sense to shoot an ARRILOG C3. We shot all of this in Vlog, just so you know. The low light, yes, is still not as good as the S5 II and the S5 IIX, but I was very surprised on some of the shots in there. I was cranking the ISO, or we were cranking the ISO to like the max, and it still actually looked pretty good. I did add some noise reduction. Like this shot in particular, there is some noise reduction added. This shot as well, There's some noise reduction add-in, but like the sun is gone at this point. We were cranking the ISO, and I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, this shot was on the 10 to 25 at 1.7. It's possible that Dylan, because I know Dylan shot this shot, he still had the variable ND on as well. Like, I'm not even kidding, because he was using my matte box with it. I was still impressed for it being micro four thirds. I know I said that I wasn't as impressed, but once you get a lens on there, like this one that's 1.7, it actually does a pretty good job. And one thing I want to call out as well, because I said like, oh yeah, you can see like, oh, it's not, you know, you're not getting that background blur, right? When on micro four thirds. But so like this shot, as an example, the background blur thing, once you get a lens on it that one looks good, but has, you know, believe it or not, a, you know, faster f-stop, or it's a faster lens, you do get background blur. I don't know why that like surprises me, but it's like, I almost guarantee that if I said that this was shot on the S5 II or the S5 IIX, nobody would have even said, no, that was on the GH7, you're lying. Nobody would have known that this was actually shot on the GH7. And so I totally pull back what I said about the whole background blur thing. You just need to, you know, pair it with lenses that can actually give you background blur. The whole point is just that I'm convinced on the GH7 right now. And I know that it's probably going to be and continue to be very underrated just because it's micro four thirds. And it's made me more curious about doing the speed booster thing, because I do have a set of cine lenses and just kind of exploring that as well. But it's now one of those cameras that I actually think about using instead of it just being, you know, overlooked because it's micro four thirds, right? Anyways, that's everything that I can think of, at least for this project. Do you guys have any questions that I missed or you wanted to know? I actually will be making more content as well on micro four thirds. I've got the Sirui anamorphic autofocus lens for micro four thirds, so stay tuned for that video. And yeah, be sure to check out the links in the description. I'll have links to everything related to this project, all the creators that were involved, and also some affiliate links for the GH7 and my course if you're interested. I will be covering specific features as well on the GH7 in the course once I update the videos after all the firmware updates, which, you know, that should come soon as well. You can also just support me by hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified. Future uploads. Till the next video though, happy filming.